They oversaw federal crimes, public corruption, and other things, and now they've been told to immediately report to misdemeanors. An office called the Early Case Assessment Section, said the individuals, who all spoke on condition of anonymity. Oh no! They're gonna do urinating in public cases and littering? Amazing. Ed Martin over at the DOJ has now demoted several January 6th prosecutors. Hopefully it's just the start and they are soon fired. But here's what he wrote or explained to someone, and now Bloomberg is reporting, telling us Washington's top federal prosecutor called Ed Martin has demoted multiple senior supervisors involved in the J6 cases. They oversaw federal crimes, public corruption, and other things, and now they've been told to immediately report to misdemeanors. An office called the Early Case Assessment Section, said the individuals, who all spoke on condition of anonymity. Oh no! They're gonna do urinating in public cases and littering? Amazing. Now, as you know, each U.S. attorney must assess the needs of his office to achieve the goals set forth by the president and the attorney general. To that end, I must assign attorneys where I assess there is need and where I believe each U.S. attorney can contribute, said Martin in an email that Bloomberg Law got their hands on. Martin, a former advocate for the J6 Capitol protesters, has overseen the dismissal of hundreds of criminal cases after Trump issued his sweeping pardon. Been serving in the interim capacity, but Trump recently nominated him to lead one of the most critical Justice Department districts, which was D.C. Martin has launched an investigation into his own office's use of a criminal obstruction statute in the J6 cases. He told employees last month that anyone who doesn't cooperate with his inquiry will be reviewed as an insubordinate, and we're big fans of Martin. He also promised to crack down on those who threaten federal judges and workers for Elon Musk and his DOJ agency. Now, it's common for new U.S. attorneys to remove the unit chiefs, but downgrading the veteran leaders to handle misdemeanor matters instead of the felonies they've long handled is considered a significant departure. Oh man, that is great. All right. And look, there's nothing wrong with misdemeanors. I've represented people on a lot of misdemeanors. In fact, some of the more serious crimes and some of the most difficult crimes that exist are misdemeanors in most cases. You'll talk to a lot of defense attorneys who will tell you that DUIs can be the most complicated criminal case that you can work on because of the blood analysis. And if it's a drug case, now you've got mass spectrometry and all this stuff. And to understand how that all works is like, wow. So they can be very complicated. It's not to diminish misdemeanors in any way. But for a U.S. attorney who is working at the federal level to work on misdemeanors, that's a whole different ballgame. All right, that's like different. Kyle Cheney also gave us some background, said that Ed Martin demoted several of those people, including those who put Bannon and Navarro, as well as the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, in prison, all demoted. Their names: John Crabb, Jason McCullough, Kate Ricazzi, Greg Rosen, all demoted. They also tried to demote this guy, Michael Romano, but he worked in the DOJ's public integrity section, and so they couldn't drop him out quite yet. But nice developments there. This guy also bailed. Michael Kaplan was reporting this. He writes over for CBS, and he shared that this guy called Josh Stueve, a senior comms official at the DOJ, has also resigned. 15R vet who served both GOP and Dem administrations. And here's what he wrote as he resigned. Office of Public Affairs from Joshua Stueve. He says, "Dear so-and-so, please accept this letter as formal notification of my resignation as senior communications advisor and spokesman for the DOJ effective September 30th, 2025. What? Well, that's a long time. Like, why doesn't he leave now? Well, the relentless attacks on federal workers have certainly taken their toll, says this tough prosecutor, spokesperson, I guess. I remain incredibly proud of my 23 years in public service, including nearly a decade on active duty in the U.S. Marine Corps. When I left the Marines as a disabled veteran, I was unsure what my future would hold, and so it was an honor of a lifetime when I was offered the chance to serve my country again as a federal employee. Now, I've served as a spokesman for the DOD. I've witnessed extraordinary expertise, patriotism, and other things. Now, to be clear, the outcome of the most recent general election did not influence my decision. It, in fact, has been an honor to serve the department under both Republicans and Democrats, each of whom have previously treated career staff with respect and dignity." Oh, here it comes. It is heartbreaking to see that basic decency come to an end. Simply put, I cannot continue to serve in such a hostile and toxic work environment, one where leadership at the highest levels makes clear we are not welcome welcomed or valued, much less trusted to do our jobs. I sincerely wish you and those who remain the very best. You have all been such a wonderful teammates over the years, dedicated, honest, loyal public servants who do the job not for the title and certainly not for the minuscule paycheck because they're so poor, but for the deep passion for the mission and service to your country. You are true patriots and the very best our country has to offer. Semper Fidelis, says Joshua as he's leaving the DOJ. All right, bye, Joshua. Hopefully you find a less toxic work environment, you big baby. All right, so he's on his way out. Now we also see this woman is also very upset. She said this, I'm working, trying to catch up on things, and then all of a sudden, Elon sends me an email, and then I just have a heart attack.
The email that came out wanting us to justify our jobs with 5 things we did last week was on Saturday night, and I was literally working on Saturday night to make up for all the distractions I had had the previous week, which came from the executive branch. And so I'm working, trying to catch up on things, and then I get that email on top of it. It's very hard to keep your train of thought when you're getting threatened and harassed like that.
Threatened and harassed like that. Oh, so dramatic. Now, these employees who know that they've been on the grift for maybe decades are now trying to hide themselves. This came over from this person called Josh Code. He wrote this with the headline saying that the U.S. Mint, the agency that prints the money, they scrambled as soon as Trump won to conceal their DEI personnel, like store them in the floorboards or something. Says the U.S. Mint hid its 5 DEI personnel from President Trump. What? And they even deleted the chief DEI officer's background from their website, according to a whistleblower. On January 20th, Trump issued an order eliminating DEI, but the U.S. Mint, a division of the Treasury that makes coins, had employed 5 staffers in its Office of Equity and Inclusion, OEI. They made up entire offices for this. So for all these weirdos saying, like, where'd Doge come from? Who elected Doge? What are they running? They put these little offices in all the agencies, the DEI offices, to reshape the agencies according to their woke insanity. On December 3rd, 2024, before Trump took office, the OEI office was closed. They had been around since 2022 when Biden took over. All 5 staffers were rehomed in other parts of the agency, so they just moved them from one cubicle to another. Martin said he's personally aware of these moves because 2 of the staffers have since taken his job. Martin, who used to work as a web content manager in the Mint, said 2 DEI officers called Luz Sullivan and Vicky Best Morris are now doing the PR duties that he once did. He used to write and distribute educational content for children and do outreach and other things. Then he was reassigned to sales and marketing on December 29th, but he was shifted. Chief Human Capital Officer called Cammie McLean told Martin the move was, quote, for efficiency, based solely on the business needs of the Mint. Yeah, right. This led Martin to register a formal complaint. He said, what happened to me over the past few months is a prime example of a toxic nature of forcing political values into the federal office. Together, the 5 former DEI staffers who are now embedded elsewhere, they made 722 G's. 3 of the 5 were moved to open positions in the 12-strong Department of Public Affairs. So they booted Martin out, like probably a white guy, Martin, threw him out, brought someone else in. Dennis Fish, formerly the Mint's Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer, now they shifted his title. They just changed the labels. You know how they like to change labels on themselves. Well, today I feel like this, and today I feel like that, and now I feel like you, and now I feel like 2, and now I feel like me, and now I feel like 3. It's like a Dr. Seuss thing with these people. But they just shifted his label. He's like, now I identify as the Chief of Public Affairs. I now identify accordingly. Like, oh, well, we honor you as the Chief of Public Affairs. Vicky Best Morris, she retained her title. She's still Community Outreach Coordinator. And Luz Sullivan, who was formerly Recruitment and Special Emphasis, now is Management Analyst. Wow. Recruitment and Special Emphasis Coordinator. Now is a Management Analyst. The 2 remaining OEI officers are also there. They were placed in Mint's Equal Employment Opportunity Office. Shanice Taylor Nee Hoffman, she was formerly in the DEIA office, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility. She was a senior advisor over there. She's now an Equal Employment Specialist. Yeah. And David LeBoy was an Equity and Inclusion Data Analyst. He's probably the one that keeps track of the pronoun database and the multiple thousands of entries that are constantly changing. It's like, man, we have to graph this out using AI analysis. Who's now a data analyst. He's like, I used to analyze equity and inclusion inclusion data. Now I just analyze data without so much equity. Probably racist data, isn't it? Says what's strange is that if you go to Dennis Fish's biography on the US Mint website, his previous title is also gone. They deleted it right from the website. Isn't that fun? So here's Dennis Fish, Public Affairs Office Chief. Used to be DEI dude over there. And of course doesn't want that to be known. On January 22nd, 2 days after Trump issued his DEI order, Mint Director Ventris Gibson warned staffers any changes to DEI personnel descriptions should be reported to the agency. But 2 days later, Jill, the Deputy Chief of Public Affairs, told a web designer who reports to Martin to scrub Fish's DEI experience from the website. Insurrection! From Jill to this person, hey so-and-so, copying Brian Martin, please edit Dennis's bios to delete the second sentence in the opening paragraph, saying delete this. Dennis Fish serves as the Chief of Public Affairs at the U.S. Mint. Delete. He originally joined the Mint in 2022 as the Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer. Let me know when it is accomplished. Apologies for the last minute request. Website update needed before 2 p.m. January 24th, 2025. Oh crap! Trump issues his executive order. She's like, we're all gonna get fired! Can you up this immediately? The website designer replied, saying, sorry, I can't do that, saying Martin would not allow her to make that change. He says, Jill, editing a bio is different than taking down informational pages, as it would be considered an attempt to obscure the connection to DEI, as stated in the memo. Shout out to this dude, Brian Martin. He's like, Jill, you're asking me to violate the president's executive order. If this action were to take place, we would be obligated to report the violation to both Treasury and the OPM team, and there could be consequences involved for those making the changes. That's me. Therefore, I cannot authorize blank to make that change. Additionally, we have already worked with blank to remove all OEI content from our website and provided documentation to show the changes. This was completed yesterday ahead of schedule. Thank you. Respectfully, Brian Martin. Brian Martin is the man. You know who that dude voted for, clearly. Thank you, Brian, for honoring the president's orders against insurrection Jill. Now, later that day, Martin received an email from an e-commerce project manager telling him that Fish's DEI experience had been deleted from the site. From so-and-so to Martin, update to Dennis Fish. Hey, Brian, I received a call this afternoon from Dennis Fish. Earlier, he reached out to so-and-so asking for an edit to his bio, and she told him no. In your absence, he reached out to me and asked me to make the edit, which I did. Wow. So someone went around him. Hope I didn't step into things between you and Jill, but I didn't feel like I was in a position to say no to Dennis because this guy bent the knee. I wanted you to have a heads up in case blank notices the change and brings this up. Wow. 3 days later, Martin reported the deletion of the bio to the office of Ventris Gibson, but he never heard back, he said. Martin, who is a father of 7, told me he served in the military for 12 years, received the Defense Meritorious Service Medal, which is one level below the Purple Heart. He said he is disappointed by the lack of fairness at the Mint, which he feels powerless to oppose. Says, you feel like if you speak up and you complain that you're jeopardizing your career. Martin told me at a certain point, you have long nights where you can't sleep. You have to ask yourself, is this worth it? They tried to go around me. It's such a sloppy attempt to hide their behavior. What's up? Shout out to Brian Martin right there. Thank you, sir, for your tremendous service to our country and your steadfastness in preventing this insurrection from happening and reporting it accordingly. Emails requesting comment from all 5 former DEI Mint officers, as well as Weston and McLean, were not returned. Weston, McLean, and Fish did not reply to messages left on their phones and would reach by phone. Mint Director Ventris Gibson declined to comment. Pathetic. Although all 5 officers were moved in December before Trump issued his order, the mandate still applies. Ilya Shapiro said, the question is now whether they are doing new jobs or just fake jobs to cover for DEI. It's going to depend whether they can go and out those folks. They employ 1,700 people across a bunch of facilities. They've removed the language. The changing of that bio seems like that happened after the order. That is a direct concealment and obstruction of an order. In addition to his complaint, Martin filed a grievance with the labor union. Martin said he worked at the Mint for 10 years before he turned the whistleblower for this story, now considering legal action. My agency showed no respect for my service, for me as a person, and we're grateful that he is now calling them out. So shout out to Brian Martin, who helped to report all this, and tremendous news. So good stuff. From inside the Mint, you can see there is a lot of work to do. It's not only happening inside the Mint. This is happening inside the FBI, DOJ, and elsewhere. Maybe this is why we're having difficulty getting our hands on those Epstein files and more, but we're happy to have these whistleblowers come out and reveal the truth.